Well, welcome to the 2025 Pastega Awards. This is really one of my favorite events. I remember my first one very well on this campus. Awards like this and these recipients mark a really special day and reminds us what we really do at a university. A university, to me, has always been sort of a magical place, which sounds a little bit cheesy, but I think it's really true. It's a place where people come for education and for a college experience, whatever that is. We have student athletes, we have student employees, we have people engaged in all kinds of activities as they seek that degree. And along the way, those individuals change quite a bit. I'm sure all of you can remember how college affected you in one way or another and how you changed. And they do say that folks' personalities change a lot during the 4 to 6 years it takes to finish a college degree. And I know that was true for me. And part of that, the biggest part of that, are the individuals that we encounter. And so these individuals mark the highest recognition of excellence for our faculty and staff at Western Oregon University. The individuals like these shape our students, they shape our community, and they remind us that what we're here for is to make sure that our students have the best opportunities to succeed and to make our own community a strong place where we all get to work and learn from each other every day. So it's my pleasure to start this event and tell you a little bit about it. They would not be possible, these awards, without the support of the Pastega family, Mario and Alma Pastega. We're grateful they continue to invest in this way at this institution, and sorry that they could not be with us today. They typically do attend this ceremony and this recognition. They allow us to recognize these members of our community in a meaningful way. So a little bit of history, in case you don't know, about the awards. The awards, this year we have awards in Pastega Awards in Staff Excellence, for one, which recognizes classified or administrative staff members who demonstrate exceptional service to the university. We also have Excellence in Teaching, which honors teaching that engages, inspires, and educates students in the greatest possible learning at our institution. The Pastega Award for Service recognizes faculty who have gone above and beyond in their service to the university. And finally, Pastega Award for Excellence in Research recognizes significant and enduring scholarly or creative activity. So if you don't know the history of the awards, beginning in 1985, 3 awards for scholarship, teaching, and staff excellence were created through generous annual gifts from Mario and Alma Pastega, an Oregon soft drink bottler and one of the state's leading philanthropists and benefactors of education, serving as a trustee on the foundation boards of both Oregon State and Western Oregon University. In 1986, the first paired Pastega funded awards in scholarship and teaching went to philosophy professor Dale Cannon for his work in philosophy for children, and Pat Gallagher, professor of education, for her work in early childhood literature. The first recipient of the Staff Excellence Award in 1985 was Forrest Heiner, a lead painter with the physical plant. In 1997, Mario Pastega and his wife Alma donated an additional $40,000 to permanently endow the 3 annual awards in their name: the Pastega Award for Excellence in Scholarship, the Pastega Award for Excellence in Teaching, and the Pastega Staff Excellence Award. So I'm so glad so many are here, standing room only, but there are some seats. Please come up, and I'm going to turn it over right now to get us started to Vice President for Advancement, Katie Woke. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I have the pleasure today of introducing Cara, our Staff Excellence Award winner for the Pastega Awards this year, to all of you. So I have a few prepared remarks before we invite Cara to come up. Cara has worked at Western Oregon University since 1997 and has grown in her role to be a leader within advancement, the Wu Foundation, and across campus. She was a founding committee member for UBAC and was chair 5 years. She's also been part of University Council, leads the Finance and Plan Giving Committee for the Wu Foundation Board, and served as interim VP for advancement for more than a year. She is the go-to person for countless colleagues and donors when they have questions about their departmental accounts, scholarship funds, or estate plans. She patiently listens to their needs or concerns and answers their questions. She helps campus colleagues find solutions to funding needs and works with donors on revising award criteria as needed. She's our main liaison with the financial aid and different departments that have specific awards, and she helps ensure that donated funds are being awarded based on the criteria set forth by the donors. And this collaborative work over the time she's been here that she's spearheaded between departments ensures that more than $1 million in funds are awarded to Western students each year for the last 5 years, and prior to that, many more. Cara's always taken her role very seriously. Early in her career at Western, she drafted the majority of foundation policies we still have in place today. Before she came, some of those policies didn't exist. She works ahead of deadlines to ensure that we're in full compliance with all state and federal nonprofit laws. And thanks to her hard work, attention to detail, and careful preparation, the Wu Foundation audit has had no findings in recent years, which is huge. So, congratulations, Cara. She monitors and manages the raffle license and teaches student groups and faculty and staff advisors on the importance of following all relevant gambling laws, which I know is a really fun one. So thank you for championing that. Over the years, Cara's mentored many student employees who have worked in the advancement office and have gone on to careers in accounting, banking, finance, and fundraising. And a lot of these students come back year after year to visit her. Cara prefers to stay behind the scenes, but her knowledge and skills often bring her to the forefront in conversations with employees, students, alumni, donors, and community members. She has longstanding relationships with people who regularly come into the cottage or call the office and ask for Cara specifically to help answer their questions. She is a steadfast employee that people can count on for help and get a swift resolution. And she always helps people with a smile on her face. So excited, Cara, for you to come up and share some remarks, and congratulations on your recognition this year.
Okay, so first off, thank you, and I'm not going to talk about raffles, so I know a lot of you are going to be pretty happy about that. This was a big surprise, but I'm very honored to have this award. And I'm usually the one that's taking care of the endowments, so this is a little weird. I remember the Pastegas from my early years here at Western. Mario and Alma were so sweet. And if any of you ever walk back behind the cottage, there's a little rose garden back there. There's a couple of plaques. And Mario had a plaque put back there for Alma. He would always stop and visit this plaque and see the roses whenever he came to campus. So this was always one of his most special events to come to campus in the spring. He loved coming up here and talking to all of us at this event. That's one of my pleasures working at the foundation, has been working with donors like Mario and Alma over the years. As Katie mentioned, I started in 1997, so I've been here for a couple of years. And I started as a part-time accountant back then for the advancement and foundation office. And I remember coming to campus, and it was so pretty. And the idea of working in the cottage just enchanted me. So when Jim Birkin called me and he offered me the position, and I said, sure, yeah, I'd love to come to work for, at the time it was WASC, so Western Oregon State College. And he said, congratulations, you're a wolf. And I thought, oh, okay, well, that's pretty cool. So I started then, and my son was in grade school at the time. And he used to say that he was raised here on this campus. And truly, that was kind of the truth. He did grow up here. So it was pretty proud as parents when he came back and graduated, made it official. He became a wolf in 2019 when he graduated with his computer science degree. So that was kind of a special moment for us. The other thing that was rather unexpected, I think, for me, well, so I started in 1997. The foundation really was pretty small in comparison. So just to give you an idea, the total assets at that time were less than $5 million, and today they're over $33 million. So we're a little bigger now than we were back then. And we're also in our very first comprehensive fundraising campaign. So that's pretty exciting too. And it's pretty special to be a part of that. Let's see what's changed. So I started in 97. In 2008, I got promoted to director. That was 17 years ago, which is a little weird, which means I've actually been on campus for over 28 years now, which is kind of crazy. Yeah, I'm getting old. But I think one of the funnest parts, I mean, we all know that WU is special. That's why we're all here. We have great students. This community is amazing. It's like the main reason I'm still here. It's still fun to come to work. This is a great place to be. And I think one of the most rewarding experiences I've had has been working with the students that have worked for us over the years. So being able to mentor those students and watch them graduate and go on to have successful careers, that's been something special and very unexpected. And a fun story, just to tell you a couple. So one of our students, he worked for us for a couple of years. We have this annual audit every summer. So that's how I spend my summers, is in an audit. And he met them, and then that year he graduated. He went on to apply with them and become an auditor. The very next summer, he came back and audited me. So, be a good student supervisor. That was awkward. And then he also eventually came back to become WOU's payroll office director. So that was pretty cool. Another one that turned out to be pretty special was a student that also worked for a couple of years with me. Him and his wife are both alums now, and we invited him to come back. We invited him to come back and serve on the foundation finance committee. So he worked with us continually there for a couple of years. He's still on it, because now he is our foundation board treasurer. And we expect him to continue on in other roles, I'm sure. So, as I mentioned, they're both alums. They're both donors as well. Our donors are pretty special people. So whether they're alumni or friends or community members, they love this place and they love our students. And it's been a real privilege to be able to work with them over the years. And thank you very much, all of you, for this honor. I really appreciate it.
Good afternoon. I have the privilege to introduce some of our faculty awardees this afternoon. So the first person is Dr. Amy Dawson, who is the 2025 recipient of a Pastega Award for Excellence in Teaching. Dr. Dawson joined WOU in 2011 and has been nominated for the Pastega Award for Excellence in Teaching twice before tremendously being awarded the award this year. Before joining Western, she taught at Oregon State University in the Department of Integrative Biology, where she also earned her PhD in zoology. Dr. Dawson has a very distinctive record of classroom excellence, ranging from human anatomy and physiology to ornithology to dinosaurs to vertebrate biology. What's wonderful is that she approaches her teaching by centering students first and how she can be of value to them. She also employs a willingness to teach a wide diversity of courses and maintains a can-do attitude even when given very short notice before being appointed instructor to a course section. In fact, her care for her students and her consistently devoted time to assisting colleagues has been commonly noted characteristic of Dr. Dawson. She interacts with students as individuals, each with their own unique experiences, gifts, talents, preferred ways of learning, abilities, and challenges. Dr. Dawson says that teaching and working with students is an honor and a privilege, and that knowing them has been a gift to her. Outside of her work with Western, Dr. Dawson enjoys spending time in nature with her husband and their kids, as well as multiple pets of all species. Please congratulate and welcome Dr. Amy Dawson.
Good afternoon. This is my third talk today. I get up in front of rooms of people all the time, and for some reason this, as a humble person, is a lot more daunting than other things I've done. I just want to say that I'm honored and humbled to be the inaugural recipient of the Pastega Award for Excellence in Teaching for a non-tenure track faculty member. This new award is tremendously meaningful, and I want to honor all of the amazing non-tenure track teachers who work hard every day for WU students alongside with tenured and tenure track faculty. We're in difficult times right now, worldwide, nationally, and locally. And it's in these times we need to be reminded that there are amazing and beautiful things in the world, and one of those things is Western Oregon University. I first witnessed this my first term at WU. I came here from a big school, and I was walking around, and people would actually look at me in the eye and smile at me and say hello, and I was like, oh, this is strange. And the more people I interacted with, faculty, staff, students, it just became so much more apparent that this place was a wonderful place to be. One of the things that was one of my artifacts for my application was thinking about how, when I came here, there wasn't much of a place for faculty to go to get supported. So I wanted to kind of establish some place that was like a community of practice for teachers. I got involved with what is now the Center for Teaching and Learning and participated in every event that I could possibly fit in my schedule. When it was time for WU to re-envision this unit, I got involved with steering committees, action teams, task forces relating to the project. As my friend and colleague Ben Hayes introduces me to people, he says, Amy hired the entire unit. This isn't true, exactly, but I was on every search committee relating to this unit from its re-envisionment back in 2018, often as chair. I've worked actively and collaboratively with this group. I coordinated a summer online teaching institute. I co-chaired the Canvas implementation team. I chaired the online hybrid and technologically enhanced PLC for several years, and a whole bunch of other projects. We wanted to create a safe space where faculty could come and be part of something and develop their own teaching. I've worked with amazing faculty and staff on so many projects, and everywhere I see passion, enthusiasm, and dedication to this institution and to its students. And to talk about what Cara was talking about as well, this place has been a huge part of my life for almost 15 years. My daughter grew up here, so to speak. My friend and colleague, Mike LeMaster, who you'll hear from soon, used to say to me, your daughter likes this place better than Disneyland. And she did. She's now 20. I met my husband, Jim Dawson, here. He's a faculty colleague of mine in the biology department. And both separately and together, we work as a team. We work to bring the best of ourselves to the department, the university, and especially to our students. Our students sometimes run into us in the hallway on a Saturday morning or a Sunday evening and ask us, why are you here? And we say, why are you here? And then we all laugh. And we all know why we're here, because we, faculty and students, love Western. In my time here, some things Kristen's already mentioned about me. I've taught 35 different courses, different numbered courses. I take on these new courses due to my dedication to the department, but also to offer interesting courses to our students and expand my own scholarship. I continually look for exciting ways to bring my subject to life by conveying my enthusiasm and passion for my subject as their guide along their journey. I let my students see me as real in my humanity, making mistakes and laughing at myself, as you guys in the back could probably acknowledge, but also genuine in my interest of the subject matter and of caring for them as learners and as people. Biology is a challenging subject for students, and it is essential for them to take away important details relevant to the subject, but even more importantly, they need to understand how everything works together. A student needs to understand and know the structures of a biological system before they can comprehend the function of that system. In other words, they need to know the parts before they can understand the whole. So to help them with this process, I take my students on a journey or a story so they can engage with it in curiosity. We introduce the characters of the story, making them interesting along the way as the plot of the story builds. I want to breathe life, passion, curiosity, and excitement into how amazing the biological processes that we talk about are. My students probably laugh at me with respectful humor at how animated I can get talking about a hemoglobin molecule. As I do the protein wiggle dance to show them what hemoglobin does to grab onto oxygen or release the oxygen. They do laugh at me. It's good. I tell my students that the best way to learn the story is to find a way to tell it to themselves or to tell it to others. Years back, I got inspired with the idea of a fun way for students to learn the story, and this idea was to give them creative freedom to tell the story to themselves. I gave them a creative assignment, and I told them they could do whatever they wanted in whatever way they wanted, as long as it related to the course they were in. The projects I got back from students were truly inspiring. I brought a couple here I will show. Some students created biological structure artwork out of food. They wrote haikus, poetry, short stories, creative writing. They did extensive research or posters. Some did art. They did drawings or paintings or crochet or other types of art, including comic books to kind of convey what they learned. Learning puzzles, studying tools, or learning aids. The feedback that I got from them from the assignment was it was challenging, but they enjoyed doing the work. It wasn't hard. It was enjoyable. They spent more time on it than they thought that they would. Many of these are on display in my office. I brought some with me to show. And basically, every student that I have, every course that I have, I've tried to adapt this project into it. And some of my students, the first week of class, they come up to me like, I have 10 ideas for 10 different projects. I'm like, okay, just pick one, right? Wait till it goes. So one of these up here, this is ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Anybody know where that works? Inside the cell, right? Mitochondria, powerhouse of the cell. This is crocheted with a nice description of all the parts of it. I have another student, I think this is pastel, not sure. It was a general biology course focusing on chemistry. They painted an animal, they drew a plant. They drew the different types of cells, what's going on in the cells of the different types of things. So they really took a deep dive into this and gave me some creative project back. There's so many more, I just didn't have enough in my bag to carry them all. As a teacher, one of my primary goals is to inspire students to believe in themselves. I try to help them to see their gifts and their strengths. Oftentimes, we just need someone to see us and believe in us. I see each of my students as individuals, like Kristen said, each with their own challenges, struggles, good days and bad. When focused on academic pursuits, it's easy to lose sight of the fact that many of our students are often facing huge challenges, often daily. I have some students right now that are primary caregivers for parents or primary caregivers for a sibling. I make it a priority to know my students' names, notice how they're doing, ask them how they're doing, express interest in who they are, how they are each day, and genuinely see them as a person. Often, many of the students I interact with are not even my own students. They're just students I run into the building. I interact with them whether they're in the classroom, in the hallway, in the library, the grocery store, buying a pack of toilet paper. You know, it's the things where we run into students. I look to their strengths and gifts and help them to see what they are and remind them of their strengths and gifts when they forget. So to close, I want to reflect on the fact that we are all on this journey through life together, and we are here at WU to help support students to learn, to grow, and to thrive. In my opinion, sharing experiences in teaching and learning with empathy and compassion enriches life deeply. I consider it an honor and privilege to have had the opportunity to know my students and travel this journey together during our time together at WU. The experience of working with and getting to know my students over the years has been one of life's greatest gifts for me. Some of my students are here today, and I'm honored to be here with them, and I'm so very proud of them. Some up here, some back here. Thank you. Thank you for coming to see me. Thank you very much.
So hi, I'm Shel Batchelor, Dean of Library and Academic Innovation, and I am here to introduce Camila Gagaldón, who began her journey at Western 23 years ago, starting as collection development librarian and growing over time into a variety of roles such as systems librarian, academic web applications developer, and full professor. What I want to illustrate today is the way Camila moves through her work, with care, with insight, and with deep dedication to the people around her. As I started to think about how to introduce Camila today, I wanted to find a way to articulate the sheer breadth and depth of her involvement in and impact on our campus. How she shows up in a variety of spaces on campus, and how she supports her colleagues in each of those spaces. If this was a crime drama, and there was a forensic solution that could show us everything on our campus that Camila has touched, we would see her fingerprints everywhere. The reason for this is twofold. One, Camila is clearly capable of anything she puts her mind to. Two, when there is something that needs to be done, a gap that needs to be filled, Camila will learn what she needs to learn and do what she needs to do to fill that gap. So as we follow the fingerprints of Camila's impact, we start to see how, over and over, she has supported her colleagues and her community by honing her skills, sometimes new skills, and then lending them to others. Camila shows up consistently, generously, and in so many different spaces. For example, some of you may not know the extent to which Camila has supported her colleagues in university computing solutions through times of difficulty, understaffing, and loss. No one asked Camila to become a programmer or a webmaster or an application developer. She just saw that our campus had a need, saw that her colleagues had a need, and jumped in to fill it. As many of you probably do know, one of her most impactful contributions has been the development and maintenance of online processes that streamline academic and administrative workflows. These systems that Camila built have processed thousands of requests, and she has dedicated hundreds, if not thousands, of hours to make sure those processes effectively serve the needs of faculty, staff, and students. These two examples don't scratch the surface of the service that Camila has provided to our campus, to our library consortium, and to our community. But they do begin to illustrate how multidimensional Camila is. She has the critical thinking skills of a librarian, combined with the technology skills of a computer programmer, underpinned by a high level of emotional intelligence and a deep desire to serve her communities. A colleague of Camila's, Janine Rockwell-Kincannon, captured this multidimensionality in the following statement. I rely so much on Camila in my professional life. If we were physicians, Camila would be the multidiscipline specialist who's at my beck and call for the difficult cases. She's the radiologist with an eagle eye for the little abnormalities that cause problems. She's the ER doc who brings systems back from the brink at the inconvenient hours. She's the orthopedic surgeon who reinforces structures and builds connections between them. I am so lucky to have Camila as a colleague and a friend. Camila is someone who truly embodies service and does so in a multitude of ways. In her bio, she notes that while service may go unnoticed, it is fundamental to our roles as educators and community members. Like the unseen beams in our walls, service supports everything we do. Without it, our efforts would falter. In so many ways, Camila's service has indeed supported everything we do, and I am so happy to be here to congratulate her on this well-deserved award.
Thank you. I'm actually kind of choked up. That was fantastic. I will try to be brief. Honestly, I'll probably actually be a bit briefer than I intend to be because I get nervous and I talk fast, and that just happens. So I'm incredibly honored to receive this award. I want to thank my colleagues, both for nominating and supporting me. I want to thank the selection committee for their hard work reviewing every single application out there because I know there were a lot of deserving people nominated. I want to thank the Pastega family and their ongoing generosity and commitment to WU. I want to thank all of the people who helped put this event together. And I want to thank my family, especially Rob and the kids, because they put up with the many, many hours that got us here. This award is particularly meaningful for me because doing service is one of my core values. I grew up as a teacher's kid. Both of my parents are here, actually. Just kind of fun. There are very few examples of service that can match what a public school teacher teaching in a chronically underfunded district with a variety of students with diverse needs do. And they set that example for me. I watch them constantly give of themselves to make things easier for their students and their colleagues. And I still hear from people all the time how their trajectory in life was changed by just a little bit of extra time that each of them was willing to give. Their service impacted more than just the individuals that they worked with. It had a ripple effect that has continued to help build a stronger community decades later. I've tried to embrace their example in my own life and service. Over my career, my service has taken many forms. I've worked with individual students and with student groups, giving advice, helping them succeed and achieve their goals, and sometimes just being a listening ear. I work with organizations and community groups outside of WU to improve our practices, our processes, and to make it a little more sustainable for all of us. And I work collaboratively across units at WU with faculty and staff colleagues to come up with ideas, find creative solutions, and just get the job done. There have been, so many meetings, all of which are to try to make things just a little bit, or sometimes a whole lot, better. When I first realized I was going to need to say a few words about this award, I was flummoxed. How does one talk about their service, especially when service is something that is usually done without the expectation of recognition? I particularly feel that latter part. I'm an introvert, and so when I do service, I try to be as invisible as possible. You might wonder why we have, in my completely biased opinion, these all came up at once. All right, that's okay. This kiddo is my daughter. There's a story behind this picture. The first picture that came up, or was coming up here. And that picture was taken about the time the phrase, "don't see me," became a go-to phrase in our household. She was in the other room one day playing, doing something that she maybe knew she was not supposed to be doing. When we went in to check on her, she noticed us, but didn't acknowledge us. And she said, matter-of-factly, "don't see me." It was like she was casting some sort of magic spell so that we would just not notice that she was maybe doing a no-no. Now, anytime that we don't want to draw attention to something that we're doing and somebody catches us in the act, we say, "don't see me." I'm going to be honest, that phrase was like the first one that went through my mind when I thought about presenting here. So my daughter's grown up a lot since then, and she doesn't actually mind being seen so much anymore, though I do think that when she's maybe running a little bit late for curfew, that phrase might go through her mind. I also had to put a few pictures of my son up here because, as any parent knows, if I put one up and didn't include the other, they would notice. So when I was thinking about how to present on this topic, several ideas went through my head. I thought I could show you every script I've ever written, or every web page I've designed. How about every form I've ever made? I could pull out everything that's been published online or in the library catalog that I've worked with students on. Or I could bring a stack of the meeting minutes from all of those meetings. But this slide would go on for a really long time, and that would waste a lot of paper. And none of that would actually be genuine to how I feel about my service. Another thought was that I could show you some usage statistics. I love me some stats. They're my favorite. But this table would get really long and maybe just a teensy bit boring for some of you in a hurry. So I thought maybe pictures of Sandy's amazing costume shop, where we've spent hours sewing and talking, working evenings and weekends up until the last minute before a show opens, might start to sum it up. Or maybe some of the scrawled notes and Post-its that are on my desk, talking about whatever project or person I'm working with and what they needed, might get almost there. Maybe it would be the partial evidence of my caffeine habit, which I can stop anytime I want, but you probably don't want to be around me for a few days if I do. Maybe it's my never clean whiteboard that just keeps growing. Or a few of the browser tabs in one of my many open windows. None of this really worked for me, though. I kept thinking about it, and I realized the best way that I could be true to my experience with service is to show you the why and the how. So first, the why. Students, community members, groups, and individuals are why I'm committed to service. Doing service means that I have the opportunity to contribute towards making life just a little bit easier or a little bit better. And sometimes I even get to see the end result of that. But there's a piece missing from this slide. I realized when putting these slides together that we don't take a lot of pictures of meetings. I couldn't even find a solid screenshot of all of our little Zoom boxes. I'm not implying that meetings are the why by any means, because I assure you they are not the why I do service. But the why that I'm getting to, which is a spoiler alert here, also the how, is all of the other people who do service alongside me and make WU such a special place. I truly believe that while service is often not obvious to outside observers, it is the foundation of almost everything we do, not just as educators and as community members, but as humans. Frances Hesselbein, the longtime CEO of the Girl Scouts of America, had the motto, "To serve is to live." My life is so much richer because of my service, and it is my great privilege to have worked with so many people who embody it. I dug through a lot of pictures to find these, and I found some of those people. But there are so many more people in our community that make things happen than just those up here. I do service because through service to each other, we not only build a community, but our community then strengthens the communities around us. And in a world that's sometimes focused on driving us apart, I'm proud to contribute to something that brings us together. Thank you.
All right. I have the pleasure of introducing our next faculty member, who is the second recipient of the 2025 Pastega Award for Excellence in Teaching. Dr. Michael LeMaster is a professor of biology who joined WOU back in 2001 and accepted a tenure track position subsequently in 2003. Before joining Western, he had taught at Oregon State University, where he earned his PhD in zoology. Throughout his career, he has received numerous honors and awards, which include Outstanding Faculty Advisor Award from the National Academic Advising Association and the Faculty Academic Advisor Award of the Year from Western. Dr. LeMaster has taught a variety of courses at WU, including Principles of Biology and Structure and Function, Human Anatomy and Physiology, and Advanced Human Anatomy and Physiology, Comparative Vertebrate Anatomy and Physiology, Topics in Reptilian Biology, and a favorite on our WU tours of prospective students, Cadaver Dissection. He approaches his courses with an infectious enthusiasm for teaching, which inspires genuine excitement about the material among his students. Dr. LeMaster's engaging teaching style, commitment to student learning, and availability for meetings outside of class reflect his dedication to effective and thoughtful instruction. Dr. LeMaster enjoys the challenges and evolution that come with being a college educator and says he learns as much from his students as they do from him. He notes, "This would not have been possible without the dedicated students I interact with daily. There is no greater thrill than watching these scholars mature into independent thinkers, succeeding not only in their academics, but also developing into thoughtful, engaged individuals with the skills necessary to flourish in their future endeavors." Please congratulate and welcome Dr. Mike LeMaster.
I'm not used to speaking with a microphone, so if I start yelling, let me know. As my daughter would say, I'll start using my professor voice. I will also apologize up front. I am a wanderer when I teach, so I usually get my 10,000 steps in during lecture day. So I put this up here to give an idea of what my muse was, so to speak, when it came to giving this presentation. I was somewhat similar in the fact that when I saw I had to have a presentation, what I was going to go through with this. And then it dawned on me I had the perfect inspiration in an email I received from a student about 3 weeks ago. And this was a student who was a professional undergraduate who is now in a professional program and was writing to thank for the experience she had in my class. And so I thought, this is a good way to go about it, is to basically just give an overview of how I approach my teaching here at Western Oregon University. In other words, almost a recipe. So to start, what I really want to touch on is that when I look and think about developing coursework, I kind of think that there are two philosophies. Some are the innovators. The innovators are the ones that are going to turn things upside down and come up with a whole new paradigm. I am not one of those. As I noted, I like recipes. I like something to start with. I'm a tinkerer. Innovators innovate. I try to figure out how to make their innovation better. But right from the start, I want to touch on, sticking with the Formula One motif, the driver's the one that gets all the credit and receives all the awards. And that's kind of me up here. But for that driver to get those awards, there's an entire crew behind them. And so I want to thank from the start my tinkering influencers that basically have been faculty I've worked with either as a student at Pacific Lutheran University, during my degree, PhD at Oregon State University, here at Western Oregon University, my colleagues, particularly Dr. Amy Dawson and Scott McDonald, who I've worked closely with in coursework, and many times they are the ones that have to take my ideas, troubleshoot them as they teach them in laboratories. So, just to give a little background initially, I've always been a jack of all trades, master of none. I like doing new projects. So undergraduate, Pacific Lutheran University, BS in biology, in the macro, ecology, natural history. Then I went on to get a PhD in reproductive endocrinology, which included doing some population genetics all the way down at the microscope level. When I first came here, the first 10 years, taught 15 unique courses across a bunch of disciplines. But then this happened. Initially, when I was here, we had about 85 students taking human anatomy and physiology. And then you can see by the mid-215s, 210s, 215s, we're up to over 250. Nursing program came on campus, exercise science, other programs developed. This changed my teaching. In a matter of time, went from being, there we go, jack of all trades to a master of one. In the last 15 years, I have only taught human anatomy and field-related coursework. I'm not going to complain. For me, it's a great coursework. I don't have to spend time convincing students why it's important. Just look in a mirror. First off, we're relatively simple. 6 elements, before the tariffs kicked in, about $151,000. Yet we're complex. Want to go to the biggest? We have 10 billion miles of DNA within our body. All of us in here have cancer cells. But our body does a great job of getting rid of them before they can gain a foothold. But are we perfect? No. My wife has informed me that childbirth is unpleasant. We have the inability to self-repair organs. Many things that can be problematic. So that's not really the issue. What I see as the issue with human anatomy and physiology is it is a content-driven course. It serves as service coursework for the university. It also is a prerequisite for many health fields. Everybody wants everything. And since you are a service or a prerequisite, they expect that you have given the students everything. Your average textbook, roughly 1,200 pages, covering everything from cell biology, basic chemistry, up to system integration. The Human Anatomy and Physiology Society, the governing society for human A&P instructors, their learning outcomes, 73 pages. And that's what we're supposed to have presented to the students. Essentially, this is what we are fighting against. The proverbial drinking through a fire hose. And so what I'd like to do is just cover a little about how do we take this and make it more manageable. Number one, provide an environment for success. If you've been to Walmart recently to try to find food, it is not an environment for success. And so what can we do? Well, what I try to do is, first of all, provide structure. Right there is my Canvas site. It does not change except what it says up there for that title. Very simplistic, get your syllabus information, what are the lecture materials, laboratory materials, or audio recordings. Here is an example of one of the lecture ones, learning outcomes at top, give them the notes in different formats, depending on if they want to save paper or they want to have big slide views, and then give study questions. And then finally, at the start of every class, have a slide that is going to give an overview, keep them up to date on what's going on. Number two, provide routine. While this is routine, also routine, testing format. They will be with me for a year. Tests will never look different. The only thing that will be different is content. That way they don't have to stress about how it's going to be. They just have to focus on that new information. Number two, we have so many different courses going on. Color coding. I know right away if there's a sheet in the lab, depending on the color, what is that review guide associated with? And number three, provide the resources. I've been lucky enough to be able to take part in the development of a new building where we're currently at, which is the Volder Family Science Center. Got to be there from the start to help develop the labs, including a cadaver room, specially designed to house cadavers. And then over the 20+ years, myself and colleagues have slowly been able to bring online models, data acquisition systems, so that students have access to current technology, and also every station is able to have their own model instead of one or two around the room. Finally, during COVID, the only silver lining I think that I have ever found in COVID was monies became available so that we were able to get virtual cadaver tables so that we could have tables that did not have to be under supervision for students to work with. All right, number two, follow the KISS rule. Keep it simple and straightforward. That is not simple and straightforward. That is how insulin is released by a beta cell in your pancreas. And if you are an endocrinologist or a diabetes specialist, that's beautiful. If you are an undergraduate, that is a nightmare. So what I try to do is to break it down into simplistic models so that they can get bite-sized pieces to take away with. Here's a beta cell. You have glucose in your blood. That glucose is going to enter the cell. It is going to come down and produce ATP. We saw that little crochet. That is going to come over and it is going to cause positive charge not to leave a cell. When it doesn't, that cell depolarizes, triggering calcium to come in. Calcium triggers insulin to be released. Which one would you want to focus on? Third, provide relevance or relatability. Human A&P is a complex subject. We get into a lot of electrophysiology. We talked about positive and negative charge moving. One of those is sodium. It's what creates the electrical signals that run through our body. But give it relevance. What happens when things go wrong? Homeostatic imbalances. We've got a little critter around here called the rough-skinned newt. Should you lick a rough-skinned newt? You should not, because they have what's called tetrodotoxin. And what that does is it sits right on top of those gates so that you cannot create an electrical signal, and it is a neurotoxin. You simply will not be able to send signals through your body. But pharmacological relevance, we use that same thing with a drug that sits on top of that short term called lidocaine. That's the reason why you don't feel any pain. Second, clinical relevance. This is insulin. Talked about it before. This is what's released to regulate blood glucose levels. Turns out it's made from one large protein, but when it's activated, it cleaves it. Here is the active protein. This is what's called the C-peptide. Has no physiological function in the body. However, doctors can measure the C-peptide to know how much native insulin you're producing, so that if you are taking insulin to treat the condition, they can monitor how your own body is doing in its production. Number 3, relate it to current things. This is how a signal travels down a neuron. It has to be recharged. A lot of students would get confused by that. But all I have to do is hold up a cell phone. This generation knows cell phones. I can tell you guys, if I call New York City right now, will this phone send a signal to New York City? This phone alone? No. What do we need? Cell phone towers. We have to recharge that signal every 10 miles. Guess what? That's the exact way your nervous system works. Every 2 or 3 millimeters, we recharge it. And then finally, bring in things they can see. Bones are a composite. They are made up of collagen fibers and minerals. Gives them strength, but flexibility. But it's important that you maintain them. What happens if you get rid of your minerals? What happens if you get rid of your collagen? Put in the things they can see. Allow space to make mistakes. We think mistakes is bad, but in reality, this is how we learn. So I like to give a lot of low stakes points. Participation points, professionalism points. They're going to be going into a professional field. If they can't make lecture, let me know. Don't have to give me an excuse. I just want to know in case I'm printing something off, so on and so forth. Point recapture. Worst thing that can happen is a student gets a test, does bad, walks out, throws it into the recycling bin on the way back. They don't take anything away from it. Instead, give them the opportunity to reclaim some points. Not a lot, but enough to make them go back and revisit the material. And 3, constant challenges. In laboratory, I don't simply present and point to things. What I do is have them start with just words, turn it into pictures, turn pictures into looking at models, turn models into looking at bodies. The whole way through, they make mistakes. It's okay. And then finally, provide tools to tackle in the future, or tackle future endeavors. What's their toolkit going to be? We do note-taking. Again, low impact points, watch videos, develop notes, sit a quiz with those notes. Because what we tend to find this day and age is we give them our notes, they never have to take notes, they never learn how to take notes. Abstract writing. Not big paper writing, abstract writing. Because whatever field you go into, you've got to take a lot of information and present it in a 2 to 3 minute period. And finally, case studies. Use some critical thinking. In a week and a half, I'm going to be making some artificial urine samples, at which point they are going to have to deduce disease based on what they see in those samples. So this brings us to full circle, back to this statement. But what I want to note is that while we presented this as being the end product, in reality it's just really a stepping stone. Because what we want to do is give them a foundation so that they have developed the skills to be able to deal with that fire hose later on so that they can continue to grow and nourish. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to introduce our final faculty awardee. Dr. Jaime Marroguín is the 2025 recipient of the Pastega Award for Excellence in Research. Dr. Marroguín is an associate professor of Spanish who joined Western in 2014. He's originally from Mexico City and earned his master's and PhD degrees in Hispanic literature from the University of Texas at Austin. He then spent 7 years as an assistant professor of Spanish at George Washington University before accepting an assistant professor of Spanish position at Western. When applying to WOU, Dr. Marroguín thought that it could be a good fit as it would allow him to continue his research and teaching career while learning and participating in the cutting-edge bilingual and multicultural education that was being developed. And spoiler alert, with the beginning of this coming fall term, 2025, he will be promoted to full professor. That'll become official. Dr. Marroguín is a leading scholar in his field and is known for his work on cross-cultural histories and sciences. His work has been recognized by his colleagues and selected for prestigious external funding from the National Endowment for the Humanities, the NEH, a Fulbright Award, although he had to decline that as it conflicted with another award through the Stanford Humanities Center. He's authored numerous publications, including single author monographs and edited volumes. His work on translations of naturalist knowledge is important for histories of science and technology, colonial history, and global history. In all of his research, Dr. Marroguín emphasizes that the production of modern knowledge has been a collective global endeavor and not, as it is believed, often, the exclusive result of the exceptional effort of a handful of individuals. His research repeatedly demonstrates that local individuals from all over the world have made and continue to make significant contributions to science, knowledge, and their communities, and these values inform his teaching of his classes. Outside of WU, Dr. Marroguín enjoys working in his garden and spending time with his wife, his daughters, and their dog. Please congratulate and welcome Dr. Jaime Marroguín.
It's going to be tough to follow those amazing presentations. I am very honored to receive this award and very grateful to the university for this distinction. I have always felt lucky to be part of a community that values and supports research as an important part of our teaching. And so I am very grateful for the continued and strong institutional support I have received during the last 10 years and which has permitted me to persevere in my research. At every academic event I participate, I feel very proud of my Western Oregon University affiliation. More personally, I would like to thank the anonymous colleague or colleagues that nominated me for this award during the past 2 years. And also thanks to the Pastega Award Committee and to my colleagues at the Spanish program with which I try to contribute at making Western a truly bilingual university following the leading Hispanic serving institutions in the nation. Allow me to thank, in very general terms, my colleagues as well as the staff and students of the Humanities Division and the university in general. One special thanks to Kathy Cassidy, our former Dean of the Liberal Arts College, for her constant support of my work. In very general terms, I study knowledge production methodologies in the colonial world, particularly in New Spain, colonial Mexico. Along with a few other colleagues, we argue that the early modern period is not really an age of discovery, but more an age of translation. In my research, I have sort of discovered that the colonial archive is very different from the European one, because in the colonial world, translation and polyphony are what you find in those manuscripts, instead of the author, which is the central notion of the European, the classical biblical archive. And to exemplify what I mean, let me show you just one example. We're going back, way back in time, and I want to talk about the dissemination of the history of the Aztecs in Europe during the 17th century. And most of it was done thanks to the famous series, The Great Voyages, edited by Theodore de Bry in Frankfurt. And this is a series of 12 books. This is the cover of the first one, a book about Virginia, the German edition of 1609, the original Latin version, 1590. And the whole series consists of 12 books, and it has around 600 engravings of the New World. And these engravings are considered like the first comprehensive representation of the Americas, and they were enormously influential. The Great Voyages were a truly bestseller of the early modern period. And in book 9 and in book 12, you can find a history of the Aztecs. And this was relevant for the Bry family because it was known that the Mexicans, so-called Mexicans, were the only so-called Indians that had their own written history. So they wanted to capture that in their book. And we can see here an image from book 12, and it's the coronation of Motekutsoma Ilhuicamina, and we see the Aztecs to the right, and then we see other two nations from Texcoco and from Tacuba that are attending the coronation of King Motekutsoma. And we can see in the background to the left the actual coronation of Motekutsoma in this Renaissance kind of building, and also in the background to the right, the city as imagined by de Bry of Mexico Tenochtitlan, a sort of mix between Middle Ages and Northern Africa city. And we can ask ourselves, where did the de Bry find the history of the Aztecs? And as with many other parts of the Great Voyages, they found the most authoritative version that they could find, and this one was José de Acosta's Natural and Moral History of the Indies. And Acosta was a very, very influential theologian, scientist, and historian of the Americas. And his book was also a bestseller of the early modern world. And as we can see from the very different editions, Seville, Barcelona, Venice, Amsterdam, Paris, Ingolstadt, and Frankfurt in both Latin and German. And Acosta lived for several years in Peru, and he traveled for 9 months in Mexico, New Spain, to complete his natural and moral history of the Indies. And then the Jesuits told one of their members in Mexico, Father Juan de Tovar, that he should write a history of the Mexicans, the Aztecs. And so Juan de Tovar was the main informant about Mexico for Father Acosta. And I'm very familiar with Father Tovar's work because along with my friend and colleague, José Luis Nogales, we are about to publish the first complete critical edition of the Mexican history by Juan de Tovar. And this beautiful edition could not be possible without the support of Western Oregon, so I definitely wanted to highlight this work today. And the history of the Mexican history by Juan de Tovar is also a complicated one because ultimately it derives from a lost first history written around 1578, where the Mexican authorities, the vice-regal authorities, ordered Juan de Tovar to write the history of the Aztecs because they also wanted to capture this written history of the Indians of the New World. But something in that history was not right for the authorities, so it was confiscated and eventually it was lost. But fortunately not before Dominican friar Diego Duran, which was a relative of Tovar, used those materials to write another history, a history of the Indies of New Spain, finished around 1581. And that one was also not right, and it was also confiscated. And so they ordered this Mexican Jesuit, we need another history for Father Acosta. So he was very careful, of course, and he wrote a very brief version about it. And it also has an image, as we can see, of the coronation of King Motekutsoma by the king of Texcoco. I just wanted to focus a little bit more on that image because, as we can see, it is an adaptation of Mesoamerican pictographic writing with European Renaissance painting. And it is this portrayal of the coronation of Motekutsoma. But we can also see that the Tlacuilo, the Aztec painter, also wanted to use some of the local elements of painting. And we can see, perhaps, I hope that we can see, in the three feathers there, the painting uses zenithal kind of light that not only illuminates the royal diadem, but also the tip of these quetzal feathers that he put a little different green pigment with more mineral qualities, so he can highlight the iridescence of these beautiful feathers that was a symbol of the sacred beauty in the Aztec world. So as we can see, they kept a part of their own history mixed with this new way of portraying history. So I wanted to use this example to show you how the colonial archive, if we really think about it, is a collective archive in the sense that they used informants for at least 3 different cities, Mexico, Texcoco, and Tula. They also use at least 10 painters to compose all these histories. They used translators. They used scribes, different persons. So it is possible, I think, to see these works as collective. And the Tlacuilos, the informants, the painters, were all aware that their work was actually an authoritative proof of the existence of Mexican civilization, and that it was necessary to find ways to overcome censorship. They were all aware that what they were doing. And so they found a way to preserve this emblematic history of ancient Mexico that still today is the basis of the Republic of Mexico. Just to conclude, let me repeat how honored I am to receive this recognition and how grateful I am to be part of a community that understands research as fundamental for our students' learning and personal growth. This honor reflects for me the support and inspiration that I have received from several colleagues and students alike, and it definitely strengthens my commitment to continue in the best way that I can to foster our shared mission of advancing the youth of our beautiful Willamette Valley. Thank you.
First of all, before I do closing remarks, a round of applause for all of our nominees. As we come to a close to the 2025 Mario and Alma Pastega Award Ceremony, let's take a moment to reflect the spirit of excellence, service, and scholarship that truly brings us together this afternoon. These awards not only honor the outstanding achievements of our faculty and staff, but they also highlight the shared values of Western Oregon University. We are, again, especially grateful to the Pastega family for their enduring generosity and commitment for over 40 years to Western Oregon. To our honorees, thank you for your dedication, your creativity, and unwavering commitment to this university. You are the heart of Western, and your work inspires us all. I've learned a lot today. Actually, I love these presentations today. At this time, as we come to closing, we're going to ask the nominees to come forward for a group photo and a picture with President Peters. This is a classroom, and there is a classroom at 4:30. So I have been informed that we do have to vacate this premise by 4 p.m. So we have 30 minutes to hang out, share in the excitement of this afternoon. And again, thank you all for being here today. Thank you, everyone.